Welcome to Mvskoke Radio, your weekly source for tribal and community news, interesting guests and discussions, plus a local events calendar. It's Jay, Stongo, Gary Fife, Jaho, Jeff Giddos. We have a couple of things happening on our program today here on Mvskoke Radio on 1240 The Brew. First of all, we're going to be talking to Ryan Logan and Brian On-The-Hill from our Tourism and Recreation office. They've got so much going on over there, and plus the biggie of the year, the festival's coming up. We've got a little information to share that, but I want to know what else they've got on their agendas. I mean, they've got so many things there. Plus, in our second segment, housing has been in the news for the Mvskoke Nation. We'll have our acting director, Mr. Alvin Bucktrot, joining us to talk about some of the things that he's dealing with, what he sees, plans, things like that. So we'll get a good discussion of the housing issues here facing the Mvskoke Creek Nation. But first of all, I want to welcome into the studio Ryan and Brian. Gosh, that sounds like it's really rhyming there. And no, folks, I'm not rapping. I'll never rap. Welcome, guys. Appreciate you making time this morning. I know you're just busy as heck, but thank you for coming in. Appreciate it.
Well, good morning, and thank you for having us.
Yes,
we really appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, well, let me start off with the splash pad that you just opened. I understand it was a bit of effort to get it going up and running, but I was there when they cut the ribbon and watched the first group of little kids run in there just laughing and squealing and having a great time. Instant hit. I mean, that was, I think, a very good choice. And from what I'm seeing, the reaction from citizens and parents and kids is just perfect. So where did that come from? Whose idea was that to kick it around?
Well, we were actually approached by Council Rep James Jennings. He had reached out to us because he had heard in the past that we had looked into a splash pad. And so he came to us and said, hey, this is something that would be very beneficial to our youth and to our children, and wanted to go through our department to secure those bids and to do a little bit more research. So once we reached out to our contacts and looked to see what would be competitive, we sat down with him, and at that time it was decided upon to move forward with it through the executive branch. So we sent it through our chief's office and sent it to council, working with tribal construction, and the council passed it unanimously.
Oh, by the way, that's Ryan Logan joining us here. Now, it was, I can't get over it. It's such a good idea. I mean, was this really filling what you perceived as like a glaring need, not only for the kids, but for the festival grounds, I guess?
Yes, it did fill that hole basically for the Claude Cox Omniplex, because the Mvskoke Dome, as you know, is a wonderful resource for the Mvskoke Creek Nation, but it really caters to those folks that are over 16 years of age. So we've even added things to our infrastructure, such as playgrounds and gazebos and things like that, but there wasn't something specifically targeted that could be, a seasonal activity such as a splash pad or a pool. So when we went to the committee and also to the council, we said, hey, this will add to another avenue for another group of youths that can maybe split, some going into the dome, some going outside, and would add to our resources.
Yeah, give the little ones something to do while the folks are inside and having a meeting or something like
Exactly.
that. It's going to really be popular around July or so, I'd say.
Yes, it will.
Now, it costs, somewhere in the vicinity of $100,000 to get it up?
It was a little bit less than that. We worked with environmental and tribal construction to determine if we wanted to do a direct flow or a recycling with water splash pad. And so going with direct flow, it actually saved us some funds, and it's treated, of course, through the city of Okmulgee's water system.
So it's clean water coming through there?
It is clean water going through.
And it gets used how many times?
Just once.
Just
it comes
once.
in there, used on the kiddos, and then it's gone.
Okay, so there's some nice thinking in there about safety and health and this kind of thing. Now, the design, is that like a prepackaged or something like that, or did you just see different little features there that you wanted to add in? I mean, how did that happen?
A lot of it, I would say, is somewhat prepackaged. I mean, we got our bids and said, let's give us the biggest bang for our buck. And with that design, we changed out the colors to make it more harmonious with the tribe. Mm-hmm. It has the colors we've used throughout the Omniplex, but we did kind of tool around with, here's a feature, let's add more of this. But when we sent it to the council, they really saw all 3 competitive bids and then moved forward, and we showed them why we wanted to go with that one, how it was cost effective.
Right. I see where the Cherokees opened up one too, just some weeks afterwards, perhaps. So we beat them again. Now, that's not the only thing you guys have got up your sleeve. Brian, I understand there are things like some other construction associated with the splash pad and other things that will enhance the festival ground.
Oh, we have lots of things that are in store. Ryan's been working really hard gathering the bids for some additions to the playground for our children. We have a covering that's coming. It will cover the entire playground so that everybody will be in the shade and we won't burn up and people won't get any more darker than they already are. We also have some, what Ryan likes to call garden grubbies. So they're like little playthings for the kids that they can get on, ride, and try to tear up as much as they can, and I think they're going to stay intact. I've seen my daughter on one, and they seem to last, so I think they will be okay at our playground. We have a new fence that's coming, mainly for aesthetic purposes. All of you have seen the entrance to the Claude Cox Omniplex and noticed how the fence is looking kind of ragged. Well, we're getting that replaced, so we will be more pleasing to the eye as you approach the Omniplex. We've got other things in store, like a new stage roof. Not a new stage, but a new stage roof. There are lots of construction things going on right now, lots of improvements to the Omniplex. Ryan, do you have anything else you want to add? I know I've missed something.
We are changing out the final softball field. If folks have been paying attention, we've been slowly transforming our softball complex to the higher chain link fence with the caution and a yellow ribbon at the top. We have one field left that needs to be done, and we're working on getting that through, actually sent over today, so it can be done by the festival.
Well, that's probably a real good way to go there. I know that softball is almost a religion among many of our younger people. Well, let's just not get silly here. Teams take these things very seriously.
Yeah, let me add something to that real quick, Gary, while you're talking about the softball fields. In case people are wondering, I know a lot of people like to call and reserve them or to lease them out, and we do lease them out. The thing is, we are pretty much booked up until the end of summer. So in case you're wondering if they're available, they're probably not. But if you want to call Mike Sands at 918-605-4283.
Now, are these
4048? Sorry, 4048.
Are these like big time tournaments, or teams just wanting to play?
We do have some of them that are pretty big time. Some organizations that are coming in, but then others are just teams that are coming in trying to raise funds for a certain cause or certain people, maybe medical bills, things like that arise, and we're just trying to help each other out.
Okay. The availability of someone just wanting to go out there and play, though, is pretty much eliminated?
Well, if you're just wanting to go play, during the day they're pretty much available.
Okay.
But for weekends, the weekends are booked up. We do have some times during the week where we have some little leagues that go out there and practice.
Yeah.
We have some games that pop up every now and then. But if you want to check availability, please do call Mike Sands or look for our numbers at creektourism.com.
You mentioned people wanting to book these facilities, which made another question kind of pop up in my head. Like fees. What kind of fees do you all charge for, say, if somebody wanted to use the dome for a meeting or a revival or a small concert or ball game, whatever, and other portions of the festival grounds? Are there costs associated with those? So tell me about that.
There are costs associated with that, and I know people don't like to hear that, but one reason why we do have those costs is so that we can be self-sustainable. We don't like to have to pull money from the tribe, pull money from other resources in order to make ourselves operate. We like to be able to collect those funds in order to pay our own bills, to do restorations, to do renovations, to make repairs, to keep our supplies up and things like that. So that's why we do have to enforce these fees because we incur costs with all those things, and so we have to keep those things available for everyone. So that's why we have to we ask everybody to pay. And sometimes there are things that happen, and there are causes that we agree with, and so sometimes we'll waive those fees. It all just depends on what's going on. We look at everything on a case-by-case basis.
Right. Let's pick one here. The revival that was here a couple of weeks back. The Reverend Grover Wynn, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, and his group got together and had
I think it was a week long. Yes.
Yeah, in the evenings.
That was one of the fees that was waived, I believe.
Okay, but ordinarily, what would something like that cost?
The dome usually runs for $250 an event, so that's per day.
Okay,
per day.
$250.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's really, really reasonable when you look at the other facilities that might be available, which there aren't any facilities that large in Okmulgee.
Right. And you got it covered. You got lighting. You got air conditioning.
Seating, plenty of seating.
Well, let me ask you about those seats. Boy, my backside doesn't take them very well.
I hear you.
Is there any chance that there may be some softening of that kind of thing?
Those are things that we've talked about. Those are things that council has approached us about also. That's just not something that we can do at this time with our funding. Maybe it's something we could look into for a grant or something like that that would help us to get backs on a certain portion of those seats. Maybe not all of them, but maybe the lower seating, especially for elders and seniors and things like that, because I know it is hard for people like that and for people like me. I have a condition that I need some back support too, and so I would really appreciate that as well.
Yeah, I've got a condition too. I'm becoming old.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to sit there and kind of hold yourself up, and then you got this really tough
Then you just have to get up and go get some nachos, right?
Yeah. Or go find something to look like I'm actually doing when I'm just trying to stretch my legs. Are there any other costs for other things like one of the ball fields, like they want to do a night game? I presume there's lights and that sort of thing that comes in there.
Yeah, right. The fields run for $125 a piece, or if you want to rent all four of them, it's $400. And then there is a deposit that goes along with the concession if you choose to run that. All of our details can be worked out with us. Call our phone number. Call Mike Sands. For the dome, you can call Roger Johnson. And his extension or his number is 918-732-7991. And again, please find all of our numbers at creektourism.com and more information on the things that are available to everyone.
While we're on that subject, I understand now access to those facilities, particularly the dome, is somewhat let's just say secure now. You have to flash an employee card or citizenship card.
That's for you do. Yeah, for anyone that wants to use the dome on a daily basis when it is open to the public, we do ask that you present a citizenship card or CDIB because you may not be a member of the Creek Nation or a citizen. So you will have to show your other proof of native blood or citizenship to another tribe. We do ask that anyone who comes into the dome be at least 16 or over. If you are under 16, please be accompanied by an adult. No one under 14 is allowed at any time in the weight room, even with accompaniment.
That's for liability
That's
purposes.
Exactly right. Thank you.
Okay. Ryan, what else you guys got on your agenda? Is there something outside of festival that you're looking at wanting to get done, either at the festival grounds or somewhere else?
Basically, there's just a lot of renovations going on. I know we touched upon the fences and the softball fields. We are adding 3 food vending spaces for the festival. Tribal Construction has been instrumental in working with us and getting those on the list of things. They've started working on those now. So we will have 3 new food vending spaces that should help cut down the lines of the food vendors and give some more folks the chance to be a food vendor at the Mvskoke Creek Nation. But right now, it's just kind of renovation season at the Claude Cox Omniplex. We're trying to make things, shiny and new and taken care of, and just basically doing proper maintenance on some things. So,
is this a product of its, I think, growing popularity? I mean, you've got the festival. From what I see, is growing each year. And you mentioned long lines at the food vendors because of limited numbers, under the vendor's pavilion, I know there's always a little elbowing back and forth here and there for people trying to over up a little more on their space.
Yes, yes.
So tell me, I mean, what kind of growth have you guys seen and interest from our people in the public?
Every year, I mean, it has had considerable growth. I know, back in 2011, we were really looking at 16,000 in attendance. So I know that's a credit to all events, not just live entertainment, which is very popular. But, our rodeo went from almost non-existent with attendees to number 2 in the whole country. We had over 300 entries last year. We're hoping to maybe get 500 this year and surpass the Crow Nation. So many of our events have expanded that it's just drawn more interest. We're over 100 softball teams in the tournaments last year with slow pitch and fast pitch combined. So, I mean, that's over 1,000 people just playing, softball. You don't count about their families and their cousins and their relatives that are in the stands. So I think it's a credit to all the events at the festival. I think all of them have put a lot of hard work with our coordinators and built it up. It's nothing just one event or one area. We've kind of all just came together to grow.
And all these people that are in attendance at the festival are spending their money in Okmulgee.
Yes,
so Okmulgee does see some results from this festival.
Well, I just off the top of my head think it's probably the biggest activity for a year in Okmulgee. The biggest thing happening.
I agree with you.
Okay, and I see Stan's nodding his head. Let's hope the Okmulgee mayor and our own principal chief are nodding their heads too.
I think they are. We had a meeting last night with the city council, and I'd like to thank the city council for appropriating $15,000 to the festival to help us make it even better. And I believe that's the third year that they've helped us out with that. So they are seeing the results from the festival. They're seeing the good things happen, the city grow, and they're also noticing the growth in our partnership between the nation and the citizens of Okmulgee, the city of Okmulgee.
Yeah, absolutely. I would absolutely agree with that. Now, you mentioned festival. Let's go there for a little bit without getting too deep. We're downtown here, and we're staring at the council house, and just behind that view is what I call the main drag of Okmulgee, and every year there's a huge parade.
Mm-hmm.
Over 90 entries last year?
Yes. Our parade has grown in numbers every year.
Yes.
In entries. And Jennifer Killian, she works in the Scholarship Foundation program. She is the new coordinator for this year. So anyone that's interested, please reach out to her, Jennifer Killian. And you can check our website again, or you can call us at 918-732-7992. That's the main line for tourism. You'll reach Ryan, and we can direct you to Miss Jennifer Killian, and she'll help you out with that. Please enter the parade.
Now, you mentioned volunteers and people who could help out. Are there any other areas where you could use a few hands there?
I think that Jennifer needs some people for the parade. Ryan and Carmen are still looking for people to help with entertainment. I know there are plenty of areas that people could probably use volunteers. We've had some people turn in their volunteer lists already, but that doesn't mean they don't have room for more. You can always call our office for that. We can direct you to whom you might want to volunteer with. Also, employees, if you're an MCN employee, you can always accrue comp time for this. Mm-hmm. So those are days that you could take off after the festival is over, as long as it's on the weekend or after 5 o'clock.
Oh, and I'd like to put in a plug for Mvskoke Radio. We will again return to the festival grounds on that Friday morning. We'll be broadcasting live during the festival. We hope you guys show up and stop in and say hi. And while we're talking festival, I see that in a rather low-key announcement as compared to the last few years, we have now got some entertainment announced.
We do. These are people we've had in mind for a long time. We usually work with Chief and a few select people, and they choose the entertainment. And our responsibility as the department goes is to run the contracts through, make sure everything's signed correctly. Ryan and Carmen do a good job with that. They work with the AG's office and make sure everything's legal and the things that they want are things that we can do. This year we have B.J. Thomas, Lee Greenwood. Saturday night we'll have Blues Traveler, and our headliner for that evening will be Brett Michaels.
Wow.
Brett Michaels. I know a lot of people are excited about that one. And, the process is always so arduous, and people don't understand that we are always at the mercy of the entertainers. We can do our part, and we've done our part months ago. It's just we have to wait on those people to get those things back to us, and that's what's taken so long.
And listening to this lineup, it sounds like a change of styles, of musical styles from past years, which was heavy Motown, groups that had proven themselves and been up and down the charts and things like this. And then you got a couple rockers and the blues band in there this
Sounds
year.
good. That's exactly what we've got, and some people that are from way back when, and I know a lot of people appreciate that. We have had some elders in the office, and we've mentioned B.J. Thomas, and they just were overwhelmed with themselves. They couldn't believe B.J. Thomas was going to be at the festival.
I am touched by a feeling.
Some elder ladies were like, "I love B.J. Thomas."
I remember him when he was new, yeah. Well, that sounds wonderful, and as I say, it was a rather low-key announcement, but you heard it first here.
Yeah, check out Facebook, check out our website. Please look at creekfestival.com and see all the events that are planned, schedule of activities, ways you can enter, ways you can be involved, and all the things that will be available at the festival.
Okay, guys, that's just kind of an initial look at what you all been up to, and sounds fun. You guys get tired of this, and what do you do after it's done?
I don't even know if we have time to breathe, do we?
Not really, but to see the joy in others' faces, and really that's what gets our appreciation. When we see the festival at its pinnacle and it's at its highest, and individuals are enjoying it, that makes it worth it for us. I know Brian, Carmen, myself, that we see that, we've touched someone, we've made it worth them, their family vacation, because a lot of our citizens come back and use this as their vacation. That's what makes it worth it.
And Ryan and I have been involved with the festival for a long time now. I know this is my 8th year. What year is it for you, Ryan?
I think 6.
Okay, so being involved that long and doing it that many times lets you know that we have to have a passion for this, because it's not an easy job, and it's really hot out there. But that's not the only time we spend on it either. We, like you said before we got on the radio, that we start working in November or December to plan the festival, because there's so many events that happen, so many things that happen behind the scenes that people just don't see. I think, what do we have, 26 different events, and we have a coordinator for each one of those events, and then volunteers for each one of those. Over 900 volunteers make this thing happen.
Yeah.
There's no way we could accomplish this with just our office. But our office has 12 people. We work really hard to get these things done, and we appreciate each and every one of those people that help us out. Our employees are awesome.
Plus the other stuff on your agenda. Well, my hat's off to you guys. I mean, I know I've seen people run themselves ragged trying to do this, and then poor Ryan's handling all those last-minute gripes and whines. Hey, he's got
We love it. We love it.
Make you move. Leave me alone.
Was that you last year, Gary?
Darn right it
Oh my
was.
gosh.
You're darn right it was. That's why I knew it so well. Hey, get off my turf there. But as I say, we'll be stealing somebody else's turf. Hopefully, we'll get there early and set up our booth. And to our listeners, come down, say howdy on Friday. What is it? The 25th?
June 24th will be that Friday. Yes.
Right, the day before the Little Bighorn anniversary.
There you go.
Ah, yeah.
Let's not talk about that.
Well, I don't know. That's a pretty good reason to celebrate. I'd say. We are on a minute. Okay, guys. Now, if somebody wants to volunteer or has any other questions or something like that, how do they get in touch with you? If they can.
Yeah, call 918-732-7992. You'll reach Ryan that way. And you can also check out creekfestival.com and our departmental website, creektourism.com.
Okay, great. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to have you back beginning of June to run down our festival schedule and let people know what else is packed into that 3 days.
Right, we'll be ready for it.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Ryan. Brian, appreciate your making some time for me, and we'll talk to you again pretty soon.
All right, Mado, thank you for having us.
Thank you, Gary.
And I'll try not to whine. Okay, we're going to take a pause here, and we'll be back in our second segment with Mr. Alvin Bucktrot, who is the Acting Director of Housing for the Mvskoke Creek Nation, to answer a few questions about the things that are on the top of the agenda for the Housing Department. So please stay with us here on Mvskoke Radio on 1240 The Brew.
I started doing it when I was 11. I wanted to be just like my big brother. And some of my friends were already doing it. We got hooked fast. I just can't get enough. I'm Jacob, and I'm addicted to playing the drums.
There's lots of stuff that makes it cool to be native. Doing meth isn't one of them. Find something better to do. Check out ncai.org. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Hear that? That's the sound of hope being killed by meth. Methamphetamine use is causing huge problems in our community. Hear that? That's the sound of something you can do about it. Events like rodeo, res ball, and family time can help keep kids away from meth.
Talk to your kids. Keep our culture alive. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Learn more at ncai.org.
Nearly 22 million women and girls and nearly 1.6 million men and boys have been raped in their lifetime, probably by someone they know. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. If you or someone you know has been sexually assaulted, confidential support is only a phone call away. Contact the Mvskoke Creek Nation Family Violence Prevention Program at 918-732-7869 and ask to speak to an advocate. Services are free and open to the general public.
Welcome back to Mvskoke Radio. Gary Fife, Joe Jifkidas. And we'd like to welcome into our studio Mr. Alvin Bucktrott, who's the acting director. Is that correct now?
Yes.
And also Casey Ryle, who's PR. She's going to sit there and take notes and report to the chief on everything he said. Hey. Okay, well, anyway, Mr. Bucktrott, that's one heck of a job that you've taken on. You knew there were troubled waters there when I presume Chief Floyd approached you about it, and there must have been some second thoughts on your mind as you considered it. But first of all, let's just start there. What brings you to that position? Why did you accept it?
Well, the only reason I took it was for my vision of helping the citizens. Like I said, I've told several people that I ran for council before a couple of times and then came up short on that. And so I just kind of played that off. But since I was approached about the housing director's position, I thought that was a new opportunity for me to step in and help citizens in a different way, So that's why I kind of took the challenge to continue with that, trying to help citizens.
Now, you had a wonderful career going on before you accepted this. What were you doing previous to this?
I was working for the Tulsa Housing Authority at the time, doing their construction projects, helping assist with their construction department, and helping to write bids and negotiate bids and see what would be the best way to complete a project for the Tulsa Housing Authority at that time.
So you actually came to this position from one that was somewhat similar.
Somewhat, yeah. As far as the HUD regulations, they're completely HUD regulated also. So there are certain guidelines just like here that we had to adhere to there.
Well, we're going to get to that subject of regulations and the importance that they play in so many of the issues that are before our tribe right now. But I guess let's just kind of start with them. A couple of things that happened recently. You put out a notice about delinquency and payments for homes. Now, I presume these are rents and or mortgages. Both of them. What have you got there?
Yes, it's all home ownership programs, okay. and for whatever reason that part of the collection part of it was neglected for whatever reason. I do not know, but we're just trying to get back on top of how the functionality of the housing authority is supposed to be, and that's a part of it. That we have certain incomes that come back from these rents that supply a particular program that we have.
So, like Chief Floyd, you sort of inherited this situation. We have questions like why was this allowed to go on and things like that. Have you got some information to share as to what you've seen since you've been in the office? Why was this happening?
I can't answer why. Only thing I can assume is just people of management maybe not just adhering to rules and policies and whatnot, and I'm assuming they just use their authority as a stepping stone to sidestep rules and regulations. I'm assuming. That's just my opinion. But that's what it seems like.
Certainly, I understand that, and of course, we'll remind our listeners that opinions being expressed are those expressing them, and not the tribe, the station, or anyone else. Mm-hmm. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Now, in the tail end of last year, we were looking at a situation where someone that I would deem ineligible had received what looks like preferential treatment and got a house, and turned back to dig into the paperwork involved, and the phrase waiver pops up. And they were coming from people in highest authority saying this is going on. So, does that thing really exist? I mean, is it something that wasn't in the regulations, either the tribal or federal or whatever? I mean,
I personally am not aware of any so-called waivers that would allow somebody to accept preferential treatment and or benefits from the housing. So it may have been something that had been drawn up by some other official or what have you, but I have not seen that, and nobody's ever showed me any kind of waiver of such, and I haven't seen anything in any of the policies that I've seen about a waiver. I haven't. Of course, I'm still filtering through all these policies and whatnot, trying to educate myself on them, but I have a good staff over there, and we don't know, or they don't know, where the waivers come from either. So,
well, yeah, we have done some research there, and it's posted for the public. If that situation ever popped up again for whatever reason, would it go anywhere? I mean, would it say, wait a minute, this isn't the way things should be done?
I don't know all the details of that situation. I know which one you're talking about, but if it happened again today, it probably wouldn't happen the way it happened in the past. Everything's probably going to be researched a little bit more with due diligence, and information is going to be more subjective to their qualifications and or eligibilities.
Sure.
So,
one more on that subject, and I'll move on. Now, if it was all left up to you and something like that occurred and appeared on your desk, would it go any further?
Probably not. Just from what I've heard and the way it happened, it probably wouldn't go any further.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't.
That was quite an outcry from citizens and, of course, the National Council and a lot of people about why this happened. While we're kind of in this area, one of the things that we've constantly been aware of from the citizens are the waiting lists. There are some folks who said, "Oh yeah, I've been on a list for a couple of years now for a home or private rehab of a private home." I know my father actually ran into that once, and he said, "Forget it. I'm not asking to drive for nothing else." But that was just him. But I presume there are other things that people are waiting to gain assistance. Where do you go from here? When you look at that issue and the topic, where kind of plan or discussion comes into your mind? What are you going to do in this tenure right now?
Well, we're still trying to shorten the list that everybody's concerned about, and that was my concern coming into this as a private citizen before now. But it's still a concern of mine, and it's it's a hard list to shrink because of citizens' eligibilities, citizens' land issues that have not been probated, and some people don't have a title in their names. Some people have income issues that just prevent us from doing anything, period. But they think that maybe we should slide them in there or whatever, but that's not going to happen. But and manpower is an issue. You know, I would like to build houses, just one right after another, build 50 a year, but right now that's not a possible project right now because of manpower issues and or funds. Citizens being wanting a house in a particular area. They want it in a rural area instead of a cluster house division of, I may say, 12 houses. They don't want to live in that environment. Some of them still want to live in Yeager or Ryle area or out in the sticks, if you will, you know. But you just can't, and then even if you can't find houses in those areas, and even if the family did have land there, they have not went through the probate system to get that land in their personal name so we can actually build them a house.
So if it's not clear legally, there's nothing.
Yeah, if their land is not cleared, legal deed in their hand with their name on it, there's nothing that we can do.
Okay. One other factor here in this equation, I think, would be the availability of housing. You know, you mentioned some rural areas, and what I'll have to believe is a growing demand. So it far exceeds the supply. So what are you seeing there?
It really is. It's just astronomical right now. We have like 1,000 houses in our inventory right now, and 16 of those are under construction or currently being or getting ready to be assigned to citizens, and the rest of them are occupied right now. Mm-hmm. We don't have any extra houses just sitting out there. Like I said, we can't find houses, or if we find houses, say in Okema or Eufaula or whatever, and the first person that's on the list, they may not want that house in Okema or that one in Eufaula. So we have to move to the second person, so on and so forth. So citizens being particular about where they want to live, I understand, but you know, we can only offer so much, you know.
Yeah,
and if they don't want to live in a housing addition with a cluster of 12 to 20 houses, then we're limited on what we can do there also, because they don't want to do that. You know, it would probably be easier for us to build a cluster of houses of 10 or 20 houses because we can buy the land ourselves and build those houses there. But I don't know how many of the citizens would want to move in those kind of environments.
Right. So, some people would naturally prefer a rural setting.
I think it's the older ones, say from I'm just going to say 55 and above, and it may be 60 and above, but I think some of the older ones want to stay in the rural areas. Mm-hmm. And the younger ones, they're the ones that want to stay in the rural areas too, I believe, but just for the fact of the matter, it creates where you're trying to get along with your neighbors and whatnot. Sure. Maybe they don't see eye to eye with this neighbor, and it creates a conflict, and I think that's why some of the younger ones may not want to stay in the neighborhoods like we're talking about. I don't know that's true, but that's the feeling I get from when I talk to people.
It's got to be in there. I mean, like an older couple, nice and settled, and then younger neighbors move in with a different lifestyle, louder music, things like that. Yep. That figures in. Okay, now let's move on to the subject of delinquent payments again. I know it's got to be a tough one for you to have to tackle, and you're having to make some decisions there that you know aren't going to be popular with a lot of people, but these are decisions that are mandated by law. Yeah, I know that you've talked about federal HUD rules, so you've got to do X, Y, and Z, and if you're not, and if you're delinquent, then that's fairly cut and dry.
That's the basis of it. Everybody that owns a house or has a house through the Creek Nation signed this lease obligating themselves to pay whatever rent is applicable at that time, whether it's $50, $100, $350, $400, whatever it is, $200. It just doesn't matter. But for whatever reasons, they were let to fall behind, and now they've got to a position where they're so far behind, it's creating a financial difficulty on their family to recover that income, to get caught up. By me making that statement, some people may have taken it as me being unkind or unsympathetic or anything like that, but that's not the case. All I'm doing is following what the rules are in our guidelines at the Housing Division and what HUD requires us to do as far as collections and following the rules that we set. Because if we start interfering with what the HUD says on their guidelines, then we're in non-compliance, and we may be subject to getting our funds cut because we don't do that.
Let's take a real close focus at that. And what you're saying and trying to share here is that HUD has this situation that is lined out, and if the tribe isn't playing by those rules, if there's something wrong there, then HUD can legally withdraw its support. I mean, all the housing money that the tribe is eligible for could be in jeopardy.
Yeah, they probably won't withdraw it all, but certain parts of it is going to be cut. Instead of I don't know what different housing authorities or whatever. But we'll just say if they had a $20 million budget, and then if something came up, and it's not, they're going to come here and cut. They'll give you an opportunity to correct the issues. But if they see that nothing has been done or to correct it, then they may drop $5 million or $10 million, I don't know, off of your budget. And if that was something to happen to the housing division, that could be quite significant if that was to happen to us.
Have you had any discussions with HUD officials about the situation?
No, I have not. I've had discussions with them, but it was more of a professional nature, welcome me on board and everything like that. But there was one instance about a citizen was complaining to HUD, but by the time that HUD had talked to me, that we had already made arrangements and been taking care of this particular problem that the citizen was talking about. And then it was just a misunderstanding on his part because it was raining. We had several projects going on, so the contractors were hung up on other jobs, and it was just a miscommunication on our part, and he thought we were just going to leave the job as it was, but it was just a misunderstanding. But we corrected all that. I sent them letters and everything like that. But
they got to be careful there. Things like that could backfire on them.
Yeah.
Saying, if you're not in compliance, then what are you doing in this house? There's the door. Be on the other side.
Yeah.
The situation now. Do you have numbers of people who are kind of stuck in this situation for whatever reason, and any ideas about what actions you might have to take?
Of people being delinquent on their accounts? Yeah. Well, right now we got about 115 people that are immediately delinquent right now. Now, as hopefully before this, since I made the statement to the media and everything to get it out there, hopefully that jarred their memory or whatever so they could try to get back on track. Well, hopefully they understand that I'm looking into it, so they need to try to get started back getting caught up on their payments and stuff like that. But yeah, there's about 115, And like I said, we're giving them till first of the fiscal year to get their finances and or get caught up. And then at that time, they'll have to negotiate an agreement to get caught up per their lease agreement. But at that time, it's real late at that time. And when they make that agreement, that's the final agreement they could make. Because when they sign that agreement is very specific. If you falter in that agreement, then you violated the terms of the lease and that agreement, and you force the housing to process eviction.
Of those folks on that list, have you done any examinations of their situations? I'm going to presume there are some elders there or people who are able and fixed incomes. And it's been my unfortunate experience throughout my career is to run into situations where you got some deadbeats out there. Have you done any exam of those kind of situations at all?
Mainly, we haven't done it on an all-out basis, but we are aware, and I'll ask if they're elders, or the managers will tell me that they're elders or they're handicaps. And if they are, then I don't want to call it preferential treatment, but we will work with those individuals better than, I don't want to say better, but we're going to try to help them more than we would anybody else, because they're elders. They're what our young people are supposed to be looking up to and everything. Sure, they're the ones that brought us into these worlds, and they're trying to help us out, and it's up to us to help them out.
Sure, you got to be sympathetic.
That's right. You know, I'm not, and like I said, I'm not unsympathetic, and I really feel for the elders, and I feel sorry for them, just like my elders, mothers, grandfathers, or whatever. You know, if they need help, I'm there. My siblings are there. My cousins, we tend to go help my mother, my grandfather out when they're in need. And it's unfortunate that other elders, kids, grandkids, are just kind of pushing them off to the side, so to speak, you know. And I hate to see that, because they need that help, and they should be, our younger generation should be helping their elders do that.
Oh, yeah. How many times have we all said that in our lives?
Yeah, I mean, if you go to your grandmother's house and you see her gutter hanging off the house, you know, get a ladder up there and get up there and screw it back to the house. You know, don't just tell grandma that she needs to call somebody. You know, step up to the plate and help out a little bit.
Heck,
you know,
yeah, a couple hammering a couple.
I mean, how many times you show up at grandma's house and first thing she wants to do is throw down some food in front of you and feed you. You know, she probably don't have enough food to feed herself, but she's going to feed everybody that comes into the house. So
now the position's been yours for, let's call it a relatively short time compared to others who have careers over there. And I'm interested in what you might have heard then from clients, whether they're folks on this list or others who are waiting for help, say a private home that needs some rehab or something like this. You know, what kind of feedback are you getting from anyone? You know, like whether it's the federal or the tribal people, or it's just what we used to call the old moccasin telegraph. You know, the old mouth. Word of mouth. Rather.
I think it's what it's always been. Most citizens are still criticizing the functionality of how housing operates, but it's also that the citizens don't understand what goes through as far as the bureaucratic red tape that we have to go through. You know, we have to get certain tests done. You know, inspectors go out and check this out, and then these tests got to be sent off, come back, more paperwork's filed, and all this paperwork and stuff is all leading to a come and go to help them. But And I did not realize that being on the outside until I'm in this spot now. But I could see why. If you come in there and you got the problem, don't expect it in 30 days because, first of all, your information has to be all checked out and verified. Mm-hmm. And then it goes on to another step, to another step, to another step. But I think people are under the assumption that if they go in there today, they're going to get something done next week, and that doesn't happen. We got a group of guys out there that's on our force account crew that take care of plumbing issues, electrical, heat and air, and so on and so forth, carpenters. But those guys are backed up almost a month now.
Right. There is another waiting list that you have to deal with.
And those are for emergency, or well, we'll call them emergencies, but, they're going out to fix somebody's faucet or hang a handrail back up or something like that. But then those guys all have a schedule. Then if somebody calls us their water heater blew up or their electrical panel blew up, then we got to pull guys off of jobs, send them to those 911 jobs, mm-hmm. and get those taken care of, and then everything else is stopped and backed up, and then you probably have more jobs coming in behind that also,
Right,
so
right.
It's just time consuming. And like building the houses, and there again, it's the land issues again. If they don't have the land in their name, we have people sitting on the list right now, but they have land issues, so that list is just sit there and it's growing. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to think if somebody came in there with a clean title, they're probably going to get served first because they got a clean title. Just because, why should these other 30 or 20 or 30 people be punished because, or why should this one person be punished because these 20 or 30 people can't get their land deeds squared away? Yeah. The one's got his land deeds squared away, he probably going to get a house before that number one person just because of his legal papers are done.
Right.
They're ready to go.
And my experience with probate is they're pretty well backed up too. So
they are.
A couple years down the line for something.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned a couple things that I wanted to come back to. You mentioned like a water heater just going bad or breaking down or whatever, and electrical panel blowing up, quote unquote. That sounds like it might have been something that would be traced back to a contractor. If you've got somebody with this kind of situation and you do trace it back to these contractors, is their action available to make them accountable for shoddy work and this sort of thing?
Yeah, their work is guaranteed. There's warranties on their work, okay, yeah. So there's recourse for us to come back if it's something that's caused by them, So, but there's always recourse on that.
The situation that you've got has got to be a monumental challenge. I heard you utter a phrase, making a dent. Since you've been in office, do you feel like there is progress there, and what would you point to?
Yeah, yes, sir. I believe there is progress. I could see it. It just kind of seemed like things were, and the employees were not happy, I guess I'm going to say, mm-hmm. with the situation or management or whatever. But since I've been there, it seems like everything has calmed down, and there's not as much, I want to say, dissension with each other
mm-hmm.
as
well, that's
comrades,
critical.
You want to say?
Well, yeah, it's critical because if you got a staff that doesn't want to work with each other and they're reticent about moving something along, then the whole thing jams up.
That part, I think it's gotten better, and the managers and why they weren't used to their full extent before is beyond me. But now that we've I've pulled the leash off them, just let them run, let them do their job the way they're supposed to do their job. Everything seems to be going down the right track. We're making progress, as we're taking baby steps. That's what I keep telling them.
Sure.
We can't change it all in all at once. We can't do it. It just won't happen. But.
Okay. The next question may sound a bit like a sucker punch, but it's something that's out there. We are aware of an audit that was being conducted tail end of last year. HUD officials were coming in to look at your books pretty closely. I presume that audit is still in progress, and have you got any idea what they're looking at or what they're looking for, or has there been any results out there that they've shared with you? What's the status of that?
I don't know of any ongoing audit at this time, but I am familiar with the audit that they done at the tail end of last year,
okay.
and
Yeah.
HUD gave us findings of either policies that weren't followed to certain HUD requirements or what have you. And from what I could read on the paperwork is that the housing made the necessary corrections, whether it be wording with policies and or administration of policies and regulations. So those have all been addressed and reported back to HUD, and they acknowledged what they did.
So they replied to you and saying, "Okay, well, you fixed what the problem, and now get on with the business."
Yeah. But as far as any ongoing HUD audit, I'm not aware of that though. So, but everything seems to be in its right place right now.
In the last couple of minutes we have here, what are your plans for the future? Where do you go from here? I mean, you've got situations where you're going to have to kind of patch up some holes and things like that, but is there something on the horizon that our citizens will see coming from your administration?
Well, we plan to, once we get our feet down better, have town hall meetings, if you will.
There you go.
At, say, Holdenville, Shakota, Okima, wherever, and I'm going to take some of our managers with us, and we are going to talk with citizens. Each one of the managers can talk to them about their individual departments and what the process is, what's required of the citizens, and it probably do something with the policies and that they have to sign for the houses and or insurance and what have you. But we plan to do that so we can educate them a little better and let them understand what housing requires of them. And it's probably something that they don't even know, I would imagine. There's a reason why and it's something that I didn't know as a private citizen, that why is housing doing this, why is housing doing that, and why can't they do this? Well, hopefully we can alleviate that by telling them in these town hall meetings that this is why, and hopefully they'll better understand and be a little more patient, if you will, to what we're trying to do. And then I haven't touched with some of the managers yet, but I do have a vision of building more houses as we get down. But that's another thing I want to talk to the citizens at these town hall meetings, how many of them would be willing to stay in these cluster neighborhoods and what have you. If we can get enough of them to agree to that, then that's the way they need to go if they want to move into a safe and sanitary and equitable housing for the rest of their lives, if that's what they want to do. But that's one of the goals, to go that way. And or I know we got the SIPS plant, but we got them down there. I'm talking with them yesterday, and maybe we can work out something with them too. And that's what we're doing anyway with the houses that we build, so we can build them all that way. There would be more energy efficient for everybody, so their utility bills won't be as high as if they were just in an old house that we bought and remodeled, Even though you do all that, it's all the remodeling world, you're not going to make it as energy efficient as you would with the panels that the SIPS plant has, or foam insulation, something like that. So, but we do have a go, but like I said, we're working that way, and hopefully we'll get there.
Mm-hmm. Well, I agree with you as far as being a homeowner myself. I know there are some drafty windows that I have to fix. Being a hairy homeowner type now, which has never been my lifestyle. But Mr. Bucktrout, thank you so much for coming in and being so candid with me here today. We appreciate it, and I'm sure our citizens do. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for bringing him in, Casey. All right. Okay, we got just a couple of announcements here, and we'll be getting out of here. Of course, the school clothing program is underway. So if you're interested in a $200 grant, you want to get a hold of those folks. 732. Whoops, that's the wrong number. Where am I here? Yep, call the main number and say you want school clothing. Golf tournament coming up June 10th through the 12th at Fountainhead Creek Golf Course. Deadline is June the 1st, so you might want to start thinking about that. And also another addition to the festival, is the tennis tournament is returning on June the 18th at the Okmulgee City Courts in Hawthorne Park. And that deadline for entry is June the 10th. So, thank you so much. It's Gary Fife at Mvskoke Radio saying, Mado Mabo Hedgets good. You've been listening to Mvskoke Radio. Join us again next week for more local, tribal, and community news and updates. Mado.